to Candidly Chanel. Today we're going to talk about surviving a divorce. And when I mean surviving a divorce, I mean as a child. You know, divorce can be hard on couples, and I think it's even more harder on children. When I was 7 years old, my parents went through a divorce, and it was probably one of the most difficult things that I've had to experience in life. And why I say that is because I seen firsthand my father cheating on my mom. Just like he didn't care in the world, like this was typically the norm. And I always blame myself for them getting a divorce, because when we went home that day, I told my mom what I saw. And to see my family be tore apart and my dad leave our home was very difficult for me as a child, because one, you know, as a 7-year-old, I really don't know about the concepts of being married and working in a marriage, and you know, the responsibilities that you take and the commitment that you make when you walk down the aisle and get to that altar and you exchange your vows and you say I do, and not realizing this is a part of, you know, what God wants people to do, a man and a woman to get married. And as I've gotten older, I look back on my parents getting a divorce, and it really is a hard pill to swallow, because to me, a father is supposed to be an example of what their daughter looks for in a man. And I surely don't want no man on how my father portrayed to me when he was married to my mom. And you know, I ended up going to counseling twice, you know, to talk about it, because I really was hurt. And again, like I said, I blamed myself a lot for why my parents got divorced. But you know, really after going to counseling and, you know, talking to the counselor, talking to my mom, it wasn't my fault. You know, things were going on behind the scenes, you know, that I didn't know anything about. And you know, at the end of the day, as I was getting older, I really just wanted my mom to be happy. And just looking at the things that transpired during that time, it really put a wedge between the relationship I had with my biological father, because I just feel like for you to cheat on your wife in front of your kids, you have no care in the world. Like, to me, that's being disrespectful, not only to your wife, but to your kids. Like, and then you think about, like, you have daughters. How would you feel if a man treated your daughters like this? And I feel like people should think more into things like that before it happening. Like, I'm sure no man wants their daughter to be hurt. But my dad gave an example of, you hurt my mom and you hurt my sister and I. To me, you would think he wouldn't want to do that, because he wouldn't want a man to hurt his children. And you know, just going through the therapy process, it really helped to show that I don't have to marry a man who was like my father, because he was not the best example of what a husband should look like in a marriage. And now that I'm like 28 years old, I really don't think I'm on this huge bandwagon of wanting to get married. And it ain't even just for the fact that I see my parents get a divorce. You know, even just going through a bad relationship, it's like, you know, you give your life to somebody and love them unconditionally, and they can just hurt you just out of the drop of a dime. And I feel like, you know, I survived a divorce. You know, at the end of the day, I think it made me stronger. Yes, it did ruin the relationship that I had with my biological father, because of things that he would do, you know. And my mom always told me she tried to work it out for the sake of my sister and I. And I'm glad that she did not end up, you know, working it out with my father, because I feel like at the end of the day, she would have been miserable and unhappy just to keep her family together. And I don't necessarily think you should have to still be married to a man or be with him and be unhappy because you have children. And I really commend my mom, because during this whole time, as bad as my dad hurt her, as bad as she strongly disliked him, she never ever badmouthed him in front of my sister and I. She would always tell us, you know, your daddy loves you. He just has a different way of showing you how he loves you guys. And I admire my mom for that. And you know, it was sad to see her go through that hurt. And it was just, she was going to be a single mom, raising me and my sister. And I did not want another man, you know, coming into our life and changing what we now had to become our new normal and get accustomed to. Well, Lord and behold, that didn't last very long, because then my stepfather came along. They started dating, and you know, that was very challenging for me, very difficult, because now there was another man coming into my mom's life, and I was very fearful that my mom was going to get hurt again. You know, I will never forget seeing my mom cry and be hurt as a result of being divorced from my father. And I'm telling you, kids, as hard as it is, kids will survive. You just have to let them know the positive and sit down and talk to them and let them know what's going on. And I feel like a key to tell your children when you're going through a divorce is you have to be honest with them. Like, don't try to cover it up and be like, well, mom and daddy didn't do this. Be honest. And I feel like when my mom sat down and talked to me and told me what was going on, and again, she was negative. She never negatively talked about my dad. She was very honest with me about what was going on. I had a better concept and understanding of that. And you know, I survived a divorce, you know, as hard as it was at the age of 7, and I don't think it makes it any easier, you know, regardless of what age the child is when they go to the divorce, because you know, it's a separation in your family, it's a division, you know, two people going a different way. And you know, it was a struggle, you know, going through spending time with my mom and then having to go to my dad's house and going back and forth. It was hard for me because I just wanted my parents to be in the same household together. But you know, I had to realize that that was not my new normal anymore, or the reality of the situation. And I just tell people who are going through a separation, or if you are, you know, divorced, you know, with kids and kids are involved, you have to be honest with them and never ever bad talk one another, because that leaves a very nasty impression in the kids, you know, mind. Because my dad said some things about my mom in front of me and my sister, and that still stays in my head. Like, sometimes I still think about the things that he says, you know, and I just don't think that's right for parents to talk negatively about, you know, their ex-spouse in front of their kids. You know, it's a difficult process. You know, I used to say a long time ago that I didn't believe in, you know, when you get married, you believe in divorce, but sometimes things happen. And you know, and as I got older, I've learned that some things are better off happening than staying the same as it is. So, you know, if your kids, you're going through a divorce and it's hard for your kids, I highly suggest taking them to counseling and sitting down and talking to them and being open to them, expressing their feelings, if they lash out, if they're angry, if they cry on their emotions, because it really does help. And I do feel like when kids see their parents go through a divorce, it does affect your adulthood. You know, it makes me look at guys in a whole different perspective, because I'm thinking to myself, if my own father could do this to me and my family, what is another man that I meet, like, what is that to say for him? And not saying I should put what my dad did on another man, but it makes me open my eyes to see, you know, you just never know. And so, like I said, me and my sister survived a divorce. You know, there's certain things that probably didn't go the positive way, but you know, it made us stronger. You know, my mom is happy. She's married to a wonderful guy who is a great example of what a husband should be to his wife. And I am beyond grateful that I do have such a wonderful stepdad who treats my mom like a queen and has been nothing but a great example of a man and a father figure to me and my sister. So if you have been in a bad situation with a divorce, or you know, want some insight on how to take care of the kids, please feel free to post down in the discussion or email me at autumnchanel87@gmail.com. Now it's time for the question, what should I do? So this question is from JW, and it says, what should I do if I found out my friend has been talking behind my back? Well, this can go a few ways. Depends on what the friend was talking about and who the source was of this information, because you do have people out there who like to be messy and dramatic and like to call confrontation. But if somebody is your real friend, they wouldn't necessarily be talking negatively about you behind your back. They would definitely want to come and sit down and talk to you and be like, listen, this is how I feel, blah blah blah, this is what I want to do. You know, they will come and say something to you about it. I would definitely, when the person came and told you that your friend was talking about you behind your back, I would listen to what they said and then maybe process it for a little while and then confront your friend and be like, you know, so-and-so said that you were saying this behind my back, and I want to know why. And you don't want to necessarily just pick at it too much, because it can make things a whole lot worse than what it needs to be. But I highly and truly recommend that you sit down and talk to your friend if your friend has been talking about your back. But I would say a true friend will never really talk negatively about you behind your back. They may express some concerns to some other friends, and it's always the difference between expressing concerns and talking negatively about somebody. Because there's been times where I've had friends who've done something and I've expressed it to another friend like, she said this, I'm a little concerned, but it's never been anything negatively where, that person can go back and tell the person I was talking about. Because I always believe if you can say something about somebody to another person, then you need to have the big enough pants to put on to go say it to their face. So it's really not your friend if she's talking badly about you, but I would highly suggest that you call her and sit down and talk to her. Thank you for your question, and I'll see you soon.